What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. So I was planning on doing this video live, but I could not get the live stream to work. I'm really sorry about it. I really tried to get it to work, and I think it was up for maybe about 5 seconds, but no one got in, and it was just a big mess. So I'm going to be doing just a longer video for you guys. So I'm really sorry about it, but hopefully you guys can still enjoy it. So since today is Memorial Day, by the way, happy Memorial Day, and thank you to any current or former veterans who might be watching this video. Today's Memorial Day, so I'm going to be going through the 2020 Armed Forces schedule previews. I'm going to run a little bit faster through them just so that this video doesn't get too long, but we're going to be doing Navy, Air Force, and Army. And let's just go ahead and get right into it, and I believe, yep, we're going to be starting with Air Force. So Air Force last year, when you look, they went 11-2. They beat Washington State, I believe, 31-24 in the Cheez-It Bowl. It was a really, really good game to watch. And Air Force is returning some talent, like I believe their running back, leading rusher last year, is coming back. Of course, their quarterback, Donald Hammond, is coming back, but they just need guys to step up around everywhere else. They're losing a lot of production on the defensive side, and just the defense is going to need to step it up. You'll see there their home games are going to be in blue, and their away games are going to be in white with the blue background. So I'm just going to quickly run through their schedule and give you my thoughts on Air Force. So their first game is going to be against Duke. Kent's is a home game, and I don't see Air Force having much of a problem with this one. The Falcons will win this one. Then they get to play Boise State at home. Boise State is always a team that is really, really good. I don't think people give Boise State enough credit. Of course, Boise State has done some absolutely tremendous things. We all remember the Fiesta Bowl win. Boise State is just a consistent team. They're always on top of the Mountain West or whatever conference they happen to be in. Now, they get Boise State at home, which I think could make it pretty interesting. But I think Boise State is just going to have too much talent. Their quarterback, Hank Bachmeier, or Chase Cord, whichever one happens to start, is going to be better than Donald Hammond, and Boise State all around just has more talent, like the Broncos in this one. Then they have to play on the road at Purdue. I'm going to lean towards the Boilermakers in this one. Boilermakers are going to get so many things back. They're going to get Rondale Moore back. They're going to get David Blau, I believe his name is, their quarterback. They're going to get him back. Lots of other guys coming back for Purdue, and Purdue's coach just overall really good. Purdue is probably going to surprise a lot of people this year. I think this is going to be a close, competitive game, but I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the Boilermakers on this one for the Falcons. Just too much talent surrounding Rondale Moore, David Blau, and Purdue's got some sneaky good defenders. Then Air Force has to go on the road against Fresno State. Fresno State was good a couple years ago. I don't see Fresno State being that great this year. I like Air Force to win this game. I think Air Force just has too much talent. Yes, I know it is a road game, but Air Force just has too much talent. Then they have to play Navy. So if you don't already know, all of the armed forces play each other every year. Of course, there's Navy, Army, but Air Force and Navy also play, and Army and Air Force also play. It's a road game for the Falcons, and yes, the midshipmen are losing Malcolm Perry, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But overall, I think Navy is still the better team than Air Force. I like the midshipmen to beat the Falcons at home. Then Air Force has to play San Jose State, and I don't think they're going to have much of a problem with this one. San Jose State just isn't getting better year after year. They keep doing the same thing. They're not getting better. I like the Falcons in this one. Then they have to play Hawaii. So this game could be a little interesting. Of course, Hawaii is now without Cole McDonald, their quarterback. Hawaii is also losing a lot of playmakers on defense and some on the offensive side. Hawaii still could be a fairly decent team, though. But I think the Falcons and Donald Hammond just have too much talent, and especially in their running game, just too much talent will overpower the Hawaii defense, which is losing so much. I like the Falcons in this one. Then they get to play Wyoming. So this is a road game. Wyoming, of course, is losing, I believe, one of the better linebackers in the country. I forget his name right now, but he went into the NFL draft. So Wyoming's going to be without him. But overall, Wyoming is still a fairly decent team. And this one I could see going either way. Air Force definitely needs wide receivers to step up. Not that they throw the ball that much, but they still need wide receivers to step up. This game definitely could go either way for me. I'm not going to be surprised when either team wins this one. Then they get a bye week, and this is a pretty good place for a bye week. It's after a road game and before a road game. Can't really get much better in terms of home and away. And in terms of scheduling, it's right before the game against Army. So this game is also really, really interesting. Air Force and Army playing each other. It's a road game for the Falcons. Army hasn't been that great for the past couple years. This game could be very close, though. Army definitely has some good talent. I'm going to lean towards the Falcons in this one, just because the Falcons and Donald Hammond overall have some more talent than what Army is bringing in. And I'll talk about Army here in a little bit. I like the Falcons in this one. Then they get to play a home game against Colorado State. I don't think the Falcons will have much trouble with this one. I don't see the Falcons having much trouble with this one. It should be an easy one. Colorado State is always a fairly decent team, but they get them at home, and Colorado State's not really known for their run defense, always usually not a great run defense or not a great defense in general. They're always in a lot of high-scoring games, so I like the Falcons in this one. Then they get to play New Mexico. New Mexico, I am waiting for the year that New Mexico finally gets up, that New Mexico finally becomes a really, really good team. But for right now, I don't see any way New Mexico can beat Air Force. I like the Falcons yet again. Then they have to go on the road to play Utah State for their final game of the season. So this one is sneaky because I feel like Utah State is still a pretty decent team like they were, I believe, in 2018. So Utah State could still be a very, very good football team. I think they are. Of course, they're losing Jordan Love, their quarterback. But when you look at the overall talent, yes, you're losing Jordan Love, but if you can find a quarterback to replace him, Utah State is still going to be really, really good, especially if that quarterback doesn't throw as many interceptions as Jordan Love did. So this game is also 50-50 for me. I could really see this game going either way. So that's Air Force's final game season on the road against Utah State. Should be a fun one to watch. All right, so now with everything being said and considered, I have the Falcons going 8-4. To me, the 4 losses are to Boise State, Purdue, Navy, and then I think they're going to split Wyoming and Utah State because both those games are on the road. They're pretty fairly good teams, so 8-4 is where I have the Falcons right now. All right, so now let's move on to the record range, and you guys know this by now. I take this team's worst case scenario along with their best case scenario. Worst case scenario I have for the Falcons is 6-6. I think they have too much talent, and they usually make it to a bowl game, so I think 6-6 is the absolute worst they could do. 6 losses to me are to Boise State, Purdue, Navy, Wyoming, Utah State, and either to Army or Hawaii, one of those 2 teams. Again, if a wide receiver just can't step up, if Donald Hammond does not play like he did last year, like he didn't have great numbers, but when you really look at how he played, Donald Hammond was a difference maker for the Air Force Falcons. Then their best case scenario is 11-1. So I think they're going to lose a game somewhere because when you just look at Air Force's talent and the schedule, it's a hard schedule for what Air Force's talent is. Of course, you have to play Boise State, but you also have to play Purdue, a Big Ten team on the road. You always have to play Navy, and then you get Wyoming and Utah State on the road. I see them dropping one of those games, but Air Force does definitely have the potential to be really, really good. So 11-1 is best case scenario. But again, to reiterate, my prediction for the Falcons is 8-4. So the next one I have queued up here is Army. If you look, Army's record last year was 5-8. The Army hasn't been terribly good for a long time. Did beat Navy only just a couple of years ago for the first time in quite a long time. Army is going to have to rely on a new quarterback to come in. Quarterback that was there is out. So I think they're going to have to rely on Jabari Lars, I think is his name, is probably going to end up being the starter for Army. And Army just needs guys to step up everywhere. I'm not going to say any specific position because Army doesn't really pass the football all that much. They're more of a triple option running team, and their defense definitely has to step it up. You'll see up there their home games are going to be in that light gold. Their away games are going to be in the light gold background with black text. And then they have a neutral site game. I think y'all can guess which game it is. And as always, that's going to be in black. So let's dive on into Army. Army's first game of the season is going to be against Bucknell. And I don't see them having any trouble with this one. It's a Friday game. Army is not one of the better FBS teams, but definitely not going to lose this one. Then they have an away game against Rice. Rice is also not a very good team. Rice is still, yes, an FBS team, but they are not that good of a team anyway. Rice definitely is going to improve this year. They're bringing in, they're losing some guys that didn't really help them out a lot and bringing in some guys that definitely could help out Rice. So, but I don't see Army having a problem with the Owls in this one. Then they get a bye week. It's a very early bye week, but I think they get a lot of them because they have to play Navy. So after that bye week, they get to play Oklahoma. So this game is interesting because Army gave Michigan an overtime scare last year. They gave Oklahoma an overtime scare a couple years ago. And now they get to play Oklahoma, and they get them at home, which is big. Army definitely could surprise Oklahoma. We've seen it so many times in the past from this Golden Knights team. But Oklahoma overall is the better team. Of course, they're bringing in quarterback Spencer Rattler. Yes, they're losing CeeDee Lamb, but they get a lot of defensive guys back. Oklahoma's going to be really, really good next year, and I don't see any way Army can beat them. They definitely could give them a scare, though. Then they get a road game against Miami, Ohio. This game is 50-50 for me. It could go either way. Miami, Ohio, of course, reigning Mid-American Conference champions. I believe Goddard is the quarterback at Miami, Ohio. Can't remember his first name, but Goddard, I believe, is coming back from Miami, Ohio. They should be a fairly decent team like they were again last year. If Army were to play this game at home, I probably would favor Army. But since this game is on the road, it really could go either way. It's going to be a great one to watch. Then Army gets to play Princeton. I have them winning this game easily. Princeton is one of the better teams in the Ivy League. But I did a little bit of research on Princeton, and overall, they're probably going to end up taking a step back this year, and Army gets them at home. The Golden Knights should have no trouble with Princeton. Then they get a home game against Eastern Michigan. I'm kind of 50-50 on this one as well. Eastern Michigan is a fairly good team, and I believe that they have more overall talent than what Army brings to the table. But Army gets them at home, and Eastern Michigan is not really the best of run defenses. Passing defense can be pretty good, but their run defense not that well or not that good, and that's kind of all that Army does. So I think this game will be fun to watch too. I think I'm going to go ahead and lean towards the Golden Knights. It should be a fun, interesting game to watch, though. Then Army gets another home game, and they're going to play Buffalo. And Buffalo is not going to be great this year. They're going to take a step back from where they were last year. They're, to me, probably going to be in the bottom half of the Mid-American Conference. I see Army winning this one pretty easily. Then they get a bye week, and this is a perfect place for their second bye week because they have to play Air Force after this week. So Air Force, as I just talked about a little bit ago, I think Air Force is going to end up winning this game. Army could give them a scare, though. It could be a very interesting and fun game to watch. We're going to have to see how Hammond and Lars. So it's definitely going to come down to quarterbacks in this scenario because both teams run kind of a triple option type. Air Force passes the ball more than Army, but both teams are a triple option type offense. And it's going to come down to which quarterback can play better. And I think ultimately who can get the football in the air more. So whether it be Donald Hammond or Jabari Lars or whoever happens to start for Army, it's going to come down to that. But I'm going to favor Air Force because, to me, they have way more talent on the defensive side of the ball than Army. So I'm going to give this one to the Falcons. Then they get an away game against Tulane. This game could be interesting. This game is also 50-50 for me. It could go either way. Tulane last year started off the season really hot, thought they were going to be a contender in the American Athletic, almost got into the AP poll, but then towards the middle and end of the season, they just kind of fell off the face of the earth and did not happen to be anything that spectacular. I believe they still made a bowl game though, so overall not a bad season for Tulane last year. And their talent that they have this year is okay. Again, if Army was playing this game at home, I probably would favor the Golden Knights, but right now it's a 50-50 game. So their next two games, yes, they are both on the road, respectively against UMass and UConn, but I don't see them losing either one of these games. These games, really, they shouldn't lose. They should not lose these games, even though they are on the road. UMass and UConn are two of the bottom teams in the FBS. I believe last year had double-digit totals in the loss column. And with UConn moving out of the American Athletic, I don't expect them to get any better. And UMass, of course, I expect them to stay at the same level, maybe improve a little bit, maybe get one or two more wins than they did last year. But overall, Army just has way too much. But overall, Army just has way more talent than these two teams. Then you get a bye week. It's a prep week before the game against Navy. Navy also gets a prep week before this game. It's the only game on this day, the only college game going on this day. Fantastic game to watch. I watch this game every single year. And I'm going to tell you, I always root for Army. My grandfather was in the Army. But I'm going to have to favor Navy in this game because, yes, Navy is losing Malcolm Perry, but Army's also losing their quarterback. And I believe whatever Navy has as their backup is going to be far better than what Army has coming in the start for them. And overall, the surrounding talent at the Navy program is much greater than the talent surrounding Army. Navy has been dominating this series for the past couple of years. Army won, as I just said. Army did win a couple years ago, but for the most part, Navy has dominated the series as of late, and I think their dominance continues this year. All right, so with everything being said and considered, I have the Golden Knights making a bowl game and going 7-5. I think they're bringing in some great talent. They have a lot of areas that they need to address, but overall, I think their schedule helps them out a lot. Guaranteed losses are definitely going to be Oklahoma, Navy, in my opinion. And as I said, those 50-50 games are big. Those 50-50 games are big for Army. If they want to make a bowl game, they have to win those, and those would be included Tulane, Eastern Michigan, Miami, Ohio. Guaranteed wins, in my opinion, are Bucknell, Rice, UMass, UConn, and Princeton. So they already have 5 wins in my book. They're not going to beat Oklahoma, and they're not going to beat Navy, so they're already 5-2. Now you just have to win one more game, whether that be against Miami, Eastern Michigan, or Miami, Ohio, Eastern Michigan, Buffalo, Air Force, or Tulane. You just have to win one, but overall, I think Army just doesn't have the talent to be that great of a football team, so I have them going 7-5. All right, so now let's move on to the record range. And as you see here, my record range, I believe this is the biggest range for any team that I've done so far. And, of course, I put their worst-case scenario, their best-case scenario. Worst-case scenario, I have them going 4-8. Again, it's going to start with a shocking loss to Rice. Maybe they lose one of the 2 games against UMass and UConn. But as I said, they have 5 guaranteed wins, in my opinion, and UMass and UConn might not even be that big of guarantees. Neither might Rice. They have to play all 3 of those games on the road. But I see them absolutely doing no worse than 4-8. Then their best case scenario is 10-2. As I said, I don't think that they're going to beat. And then their worst case scenario is 10-2. As I said, they're not going to beat Oklahoma. They're not going to beat Navy, in my opinion. But they definitely could win every single other game on the schedule. Oklahoma's a guaranteed loss, and I think just because teams are better at passing the football than Army, that'll get the better of them somewhere down the road. But I definitely could see Army going 10-2 if the team just really takes it a step up this year and really shows out. But to reiterate, my prediction for Army is 7-5. All right, so now the last Armed Force team that I have yet to do, and it is Navy. So Navy in 2018, I believe, went 3-10 or something terrible like that, and they really stepped it up last year. They went 11-2, 10-2 in the regular season, or excuse me, 10-2 in the regular season, and then won their bowl game. Navy is losing Malcolm Perry, which is going to take a hit to their record and their talent. But overall, Navy is still a very impressive team. There's going to be a lot of position battles, including at the quarterback spot. But I think the favorite right now is going to have to be Dalen Morris. Definitely the favorite to win that quarterback spot. And if he can do what Malcolm Perry did, Navy is going to continue to be a really good team. But overall, they still have a lot of great talent. So when you look up there, their home games are going to be in gold. Away games are going to be in the dark blue. And then they have 2 neutral site games, and those, as always, are going to be in black. So let's go ahead and look at their schedule. So they play in week 0 against Notre Dame, and this game is going to be in Dublin, Ireland. As I said in my Notre Dame video, this is going to be a great atmosphere. Can't wait to watch this one. It's going to be so much fun to watch. But I'm leaning towards the Irish in this one because with all the lack of practice and these 2 teams being – but I'm going to lean towards the Irish in this one because with all the lack of practice and Navy losing Malcolm Perry, Notre Dame definitely has some shoes to fill as well, like in the wide receiver, tight end, and defense has to step it up for the Irish. But overall, Notre Dame is a far better team, and Ian Book can do so many more things than whatever else Navy brings to the table. So I'm favoring the Irish here in this one. Then they get a bye week. You play in week 0, you don't play in week 1. Simple as that. Next week, they have a home game against Lafayette. So Lafayette is an FCS team. I believe they're the Lafayette Leopards, and Navy should not have a problem with this one. Navy will win this one big. Then they have an away game against Tulane. So just like I said, Army, this is really a 50-50 game. Could go either way for me because Tulane definitely has more talent returning than Navy, and I believe Tulane's quarterback is even coming back. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Tulane's quarterback, as far as I know, is coming back, and Navy is losing Malcolm Perry. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the quarterback play plays out in this game. And I think that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Tulane definitely throws the ball more than Navy, just like all the other Armed Forces teams running the triple option type. This game really could go either way for me, and I look forward to watching that one. Then they have a home game against Temple. So Temple is always a team that hangs around and loves to put teams on upset alert. Temple's always a very competitive team, consistent 7-5, 8-4, 9-3 team, year in and year out. So it should be a very fun game to watch here. But Navy just has overall better talent, especially on the defensive side. So I like the midshipmen beat the Owls. Then they have an away game against Air Force. So this game is probably going to decide the Commander's Cup. If you don't know what that is, as I talked about when I looked at Air Force, Army, and Navy, they all play each other, and the winner of head-to-head record walks away with what they call the Commander's Cup. So this game is probably going to decide the Commander's Cup since I see Navy, as I just talked about, easily beating Army. This game definitely is going to be very close. Air Force is returning their quarterback while Navy is not. It's definitely probably going to come down to whichever wide receivers can block better and potentially even get out open for pass if they decide to run some of those plays. I'm probably going to end up tuning into this game. It should be a lot of fun to watch. But I'm leaning towards the midshipmen here against the Falcons. Then they have a bye week, again, just like Air Force. They get a bye week after an away game and before an away game. And they're going to end up playing East Carolina after their bye week. East Carolina, again, is not all that great of a team. They're always usually around 6-6. So, East Carolina is a pretty average team. Again, always around 6-6. I think a couple years ago they went 9-3, and they were a fairly decent team. But ever since then, East Carolina's still been the average 6-6 team we'd all come to expect and love from the Pirates. And I don't see Navy having a problem with this one. I'll give this one to the Midshipmen. Then they get a home game against Houston. So, of course, Houston is losing Derek King. Big loss for Houston, although he didn't play that much last year. Did the year prior and was really, really good. He, of course, is going over to Miami. And then the overall other talent surrounding Houston is not all that great. So I like the Midshipmen to win this one pretty easily. And I think by this point, Navy is going to have a lot of things figured out. They're going to have their quarterback situation figured out. Their defense is going to be playing up to the level that they should be. Then they get an away game against SMU. So if this were last year, this probably would have been a very, very impressive game. Very, very close game to watch. This year, SMU is losing a lot of talent, most notably Sam Prochet, the wide receiver. He went to the draft. And SMU just losing so much more talent. They're not going to be where they were last year and in the rankings and all that. So Navy, again, I believe, is going to win this game. So then Navy gets another home game against Memphis. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding the Memphis program, and by that I mean if Memphis is going to be as good as they have been in recent years or not. Of course, Mike Norvell is going to go coach at Florida State. But Memphis still has a lot of really, really good talent. It's just a question of, is their coach going to be as good as Mike Norvell and all that stuff. So we're going to see if Memphis is up, and if Memphis is going to be as good as they have been in recent years. They're going to be in full swing by this point. And if that happens, it's a 50-50 game for me. But as of right now, I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Midshipmen just because of the uncertainty surrounding Memphis, and Navy's going to have everything figured out by now. Then they get an away game against South Florida. So this game, again, should not be much of a problem. The Bulls were pretty good a couple years ago, and ever since then have not been that great. South Florida had a great quarterback, and I believe his name was Jonathan Flowers. He has since moved on to bigger and better things. And since he left again, South Florida's not been that great. The Midshipmen should have no problem with this one. So then they get a bye week and another bye week on top of that. So 2 bye weeks in a row to prepare for the game against Army. Yes, this game is always fun to watch. I tune in every single year. And as I just talked about, I always root for Army since my grandfather was in the Army. But I am leaning towards the Midshipmen this year because both teams are losing their quarterback, and I just feel like Navy's replacement is going to be a lot better than Army's replacement, as I just said, and Navy overall has more talent on the defensive side of the ball than Army, so I'm going to lean towards the Midshipmen this one. They've dominated the series for the most part. I know a couple years ago, Army did beat Navy. That was when Navy went 3-10 or 3-9 in 2018. But last year, Navy absolutely commanded that game, and it was still always is a fun game to watch, but I'm leaning towards the Midshipmen this year. All right, so now with everything being said and considered, especially the loss of Malcolm Perry, I have the Midshipmen going 9-3. And to me, the 3 losses are going to be to Notre Dame. Definitely one of the losses. It's their only guaranteed loss to me on the schedule. Otherwise, they could lose to Tulane, Air Force, Memphis, maybe even Army beats them. The road games are very interesting because they do, again, as I just said, have to go on the road to play Tulane, have to go on the road to play Air Force, and they get Memphis at home, which is big if Memphis turns out to be that good. But the loss of Malcolm Perry is going to be big to the Midshipmen, so I have them going 9-3. All right, let's move on to the record range. You guys know this by now. I take the team's worst case scenario along with their best case scenario. Worst case scenario I have for the Midshipmen is 6-6. If losing Malcolm Perry was such a big deal and they just divert to how they were in 2018, the Midshipmen are barely going to be able to make a bowl game. It's going to start with a loss to Notre Dame, and I don't see any way they can lose to Lafayette. But then it's going to start with 3 consecutive losses to Tulane, Temple, and Air Force, and it's not going to be going well. And they'll lose some games down the road. Maybe even they lose to Army in this scenario. But I think they have too much talent to revert back to how they played in 2018, where they only had 3 wins. But losing Malcolm Perry might be a bigger deal than we all expect. Of course, we all know it's a big deal. But if the backup is not even half as good as Malcolm Perry was, Navy is going to be in some real trouble. Then their best case scenario is 11-1. So Notre Dame, I don't see any way they can beat them, especially since it's the first game of the season. There's not going to be a lot of practice in late August, and we're almost in June. They're only going to have about 2 months if we start getting back to shape right here, right now. But I could see them winning every other game on the schedule. They don't really have a tough game. They don't have to play UCF or Cincinnati out of the American. So if the backup for Malcolm Perry, so if the replacement for Malcolm Perry ends up to be as good or maybe even better than Malcolm Perry, Navy is definitely going to be as good, if not better than they were last year. Going to be an interesting season to watch for the midshipmen, but I have them going 9-3. So that's going to do it for my Memorial Day special, the Armed Forces schedule previews and record predictions. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you're brand new or enjoy my content. Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Again, I'm very sorry that I could not do this live. I was just having a lot of trouble getting the live stream set up. Thank you all for your support. I could not do any of this without you guys. And remember, until next time, play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.